So we're back with another video, and it's been a little bit of more gym content as of late. I wanted to make a proper video now, a little bit of a perhaps a longer one, and talk about my own examples with this one and everything, but we're going to be talking about environment and how environment changes your life and things like that. So in this video we're going to be talking about environment and all the things and examples related to that and how it affects your life, as well as opportunities you have and many other things that I want to cover with this topic. Now, first of all, just talking about environment. What is technically an environment? An environment is basically a space where you're going to be like living in, spending time, doing something in, and basically just people you surround yourself with and everything like that. Like, an environment encompasses into every area of life, and you have to take that into consideration when you're doing certain things. So that's why I wanted to get into different examples, because it's quite a large topic to an extent. So I feel like there's a fair bit of things to talk about in this video regarding environment and how to handle different situations in different environments. I'll try to give good and bad examples of each, so we can have like a more of a balanced perspective, as well as I want to talk about different life situations that you could be dealing with because of a bad environment or a good environment and things like that. So anyways, let's get into it. So let's just take, for example, if you want to lose weight, okay? If you're trying to lose weight, the number one problem you're going to have is actually your environment a lot of the time. A lot of the time things like weight gain starts from either environment or just like some kind of perhaps a mental issue or a physical issue is where people gain weight, or just lack of discipline and things like that, and bad habits. But I think a lot of that is environment still, like at least most of the time it's 50% environment, is just because it's like, for me, for example, if we talk about my own experience, when I was overweight, what my problem was largely was my environment that I grew up in, which was full of unhealthy foods and people who ate unhealthy foods. And because there was a lot of sort of issues as well in my family, so because of that, the environment was even more toxic, which caused it to become more unhealthy in terms of eating. What happens is the environment is going to start affecting me, and over time I started gaining a lot of weight, and it took a lot of work to turn that around. So that's one example. If you want to lose weight, you're going to have to deal with like environmental changes, and you're going to have to just recognize when you're in a toxic environment regarding that. So you can see, like, are you buying sugary foods, snacks, whatever, and hiding them in your cabinets? And you have to think about that, really. Like, are you hiding things in your cabinets? Because if you want to lose weight, you have to change your environment to be more healthy. And let's say you're in a good environment, you're going to be more healthy because you have healthy foods in your cabinets and fridge. When you surround yourself with healthy foods, and if you surround yourself with people that are healthy as well, who eat well, then you're going to be more likely to lose weight and be more sporty perhaps in activities. So you're going to be able to deal with your environment way better that way. Another example would be, for example, work. If you do work at home or by yourself, like some kind of independent work, you're probably going to notice that your environment, if it's messy, it's going to start affecting your work, and it's going to start affecting your ability to effectively do a lot of focused things. So you have to make sure that your area that you work in is not too quiet or too loud, and you have to make sure that your environment is actually as well properly set up for your work that you're doing. Like, I feel like a lot of people neglect basic things like this, just setting up their environment for success. Because if you don't set it up for success, then you're kind of going to be more likely to fail. Like, you have to have your goals around, perhaps, if that's what motivates you, and just keep your things clean, especially if you work in your home. so that you can have a good environment to be in. And that's all. Now, as far as social life goes, now this is one where environment can affect you a lot. It's like basically the people you're friends with affect you, the people who you have in your family affect you, relationships, everything in your environment, in those different social environments affect you. The things you consume and the things you consume from these people and the information you take in and the time you spend with these people is going to affect you. So you have to choose everybody carefully. Your family you can't choose, obviously, but if your family is toxic, then you have to distance yourself from that the best you can in your situation. If you have trouble with your family, then you're kind of, I don't really have any advice as into like, because there could be many specific situations, so you kind of have to figure out what you can do in your own situation and change that. If you can't change it and you're forced into a situation, then you're just gonna kind of have to live with it till you can figure out a way out. I mean, there's really no way about it. I know there are some people that have that, but either way, it's pretty rare. But most people should probably just cut off toxic people from their life, like simply, like whether it's friends, relationships, or family. And just cut off those people, because a lot of people might slow you down if you have bad, toxic friends that do bad habits. That's a toxic environment, and that's going to slow you down and affect your development if you're into that. If you're into self-development, as I would assume if you're watching this channel, probably. Then I would assume you want to be better as a person. So one thing I would definitely recommend is just avoiding toxic people, because those social environments will affect you a lot and your mental health. And sometimes it's just better to be alone than it is to be with people, because at least when you're alone you can choose what you consume, which means that you can choose what you feed yourself, and that what you feed yourself is going to make you or break you at most points in your life, I would say. Because if you consume a lot of negativity, you're going to be negative. If you consume positivity, you're going to be more positive. If you think negatively, you're going to be more negative, and so on. It's just like whatever you consume and think and so on, it makes a huge difference. And that's why you have to change your social environment if it's bad. Now, my own life examples would be the weight loss one is very much one for me where I had to change my environment. I couldn't inherently at first change my environment, so I had to work around my environment. And the best way you can work around your environment is you're going to have to use a lot of willpower and self-discipline, because sometimes you just can't leave an environment and you have to live in it. So the best thing you can do is to modify your environment as much as you can and try to be self-disciplined regardless of the people around you, and just have your own developed self. And you're going to have to set your own goals and just try to ignore the people in your environment who are very toxic and giving you these unhealthy habits, and in my case unhealthy foods that I had to avoid the best I could, and cutting things out. And notice what you're doing yourself at least, and cut those toxic things out that you're doing yourself to yourself. Because if you discipline yourself and you don't make mistakes, at least that's cut off. So whatever the environment brings to you is what the environment brings to you, but at least you're controlling yourself. Then you can try to modify your environment and reject whatever unhealthy things you find in your environment. Otherwise, if you, for example, live at your family house and you can't leave, then try to modify the foods there, maybe buy your own healthy foods, or reject unhealthy foods that your environment is bringing you, for example. That would be one way to control your environment if you can't leave the environment that's toxic. And if you, for example, live with toxic friends, you can try to modify the environment or close yourself off a little bit from them if you can. But I would suggest changing an environment at that point, because why are you living with toxic people if you don't want to? I know there are some people that can change it, but again, modify the environment the best you can and then make a change once you can make a change. Now I wanted to talk about environments as well, in terms of like how environments affect your life and how they effectively can give you different opportunities and life choices. Now, you can change where you're born, but you can change if you want to move, most likely if you live in a first world country and you have some money. you can move out to wherever you want eventually if you build up your money. So there are different opportunities for different areas. If you live in a really small village, you're probably going to have a tough time doing, let's say, a social media career. If you live in a small village, it's going to be very tough because you don't have any connections, you don't have any opportunities, and it's very hard to reach people compared to a big city where you're going to be able to reach a lot of people. So you have to think about these things when whatever goal you're trying to achieve, think about the environment you're at in your city or village or whatever. And then if you have to move, then you have to make a plan for that and change your environment to have better opportunities for the future. This could apply to like job opportunities as well. And just like really anything that you want more opportunities in, whether it's jobs or making a business or whatever, meeting new people even. Like if you live in a certain toxic environment or a bad environment for meeting new people, then you should move to a bigger place to meet more people pretty much. Though for some people it can be a worse choice, but you should pick your city sort of well so you can put yourself out there better. But that's also a case of where you have to put yourself out there to actually meet people. But anyways, my point is change your environment to have better opportunities if you find that your environment is bad for you. I feel like a lot of people are stuck in bad environments of different kinds, as I explained the examples. A lot of people are stuck in these different environments all the time, and they don't change their environment, so they end up staying the same. They end up having the same stupid habits and bad habits and making mistakes all the time, and other people affect them very toxically. And another thing is just not putting yourself in bad environments. Like if you know that a club is a bad environment, try to avoid putting yourself out there. If you know people are doing drugs, drinking a lot of alcohol and maybe offering you drinks or drugs, try to not go into those environments so you can avoid the temptation altogether. If you're not able to self-discipline yourself and avoid the temptation and you're giving in easily, then avoid the bad things so you don't put yourself in those bad environments. Even if you don't inherently live in a bad environment and so on, if you're still putting yourself in bad social environments where you're going to end up doing mistakes and bad habits and things like that, it's like you just have to get yourself out of those environments. And this can apply to any habits at all that you really have. Just put yourself out of the environment or block the environment, whatever, you know. Now, life is, at the end of the day, I believe, mostly a choice. Like whether you want to go for an environment which is bad or unhealthy for you or not is a choice to an extent. Some people can't escape their situations, but you can always do something about your situation. You can't let your situation dictate where you're at in life and what you want to achieve. And for example, what you want to do, you just have to work around it till you can make a bigger change, perhaps, like modify the environment, as I said. And that's pretty much all regarding this segment, at least, of this. I just wanted to talk about the examples regarding environments and things like that and opportunities. I also wanted to talk about the fact that I think our environment can affect a lot of our development. So we have different environments like school environments as well as work environments and things like that. A lot of these things affect the things we think about and the way we think about things. So like if you're in an environment where you're in school and school is teaching you certain things and the way to act, you're going to consume those things and you're going to start thinking those are the right things to do, when in reality they might not be. Same thing for work or any political environment or whatever. So this kind of goes to the same points, but I wanted to talk more broadly about the topic because you might not notice some of these things. So you have different environments like work, school, political environments, like whatever different environments you have. These environments and the things you consume in those environments will directly affect your brain and the way you think if you let them. So I think my whole point here is to say, to develop yourself, become your own person, think about things critically, and whatever you consume from the outside, don't take it as for granted and accept it as truth. Same thing for the internet. The internet is an environment of sorts. Take everything with a grain of salt and just make your own identity and your own self, so that you don't become your environment in combination, basically. So you have this own self-identity, so you can look at an environment and be like, that is toxic, that is a good environment, those are good people, those are bad people. Of course, everything can be subjective, but at the end of the day, from your perspective, at the end of the day, what matters is that you create your own identity and what you believe is correct to do in life and what is wrong, your own morals and things like that. And then once you have those set up, then after that you can go into these different environments and work way better as an individual who knows themselves and is not going to be allow these environments to consume them while they're in them, and it's not going to let you affect your individuality at all. And you're going to be able to stay the same person and develop yourself, and you're not going to be consumed by your environment. This is something I've done, is develop my own self-identity and my own beliefs and things like that. So I'm very harsh towards outside sources of information and consuming things from people or environments. So like, let's say, for example, if I'm in an environment where somebody's telling me something is better than what I'm currently doing, I'll take the information and I'll process it, and if it makes sense, I'll use it. But I also have my own individuality and knowledge and experience, which I can apply, and that is going to allow me to not consume everything and just take it for granted and actually have my own thoughts. Somebody might say, oh, this way of training is better. Instead, you can have your own individuality, experience and things like that to rely on, and then become better. Obviously, if you lack experience, then I would encourage you to educate yourself and get experience slowly in whatever you need experience in, whatever it's, if it's lifting, work, whatever. You have to first educate yourself on good methods and then actually experience and apply them. And then once you have that, then you can move on and you can actually know what is correct and not. Now, if you don't have an experience and you lack education, listening to other people can be beneficial in topics you don't know anything about. But you still have to express your own individuality and critical thinking in terms of trying to figure out what knowledge is correct and what is not correct. So that's something you should do, is you can consume some things from good environments and educate yourself, of course, but also have your own individual and critical thinking. Especially if you lack experience and knowledge, then you should apply a lot more critical thinking as well, since you don't have anything else to rely on really. So you have to just kind of consume and think about it later. I know many people, and myself included, have been a victim or have got into the trap of kind of consuming things and then assuming that as the right thing or correct, and then figuring out later from experience or whatever, trial and error, that was not correct and it was the wrong thing to do, or the information was indeed not correct. This could pretty much apply to anything in life. Like, you learn something, you learn that, oh, it's not actually correct, and then you change your opinion about it, or your like political opinion could change, like whatever. It's literally could go anywhere. Like, sometimes you learn something and you basically de-learn it and learn something new about it. It happens. Everybody makes mistakes. You can't avoid mistakes, but my point here is try to avoid mistakes the best you can, so you can avoid wasting time in your life, pretty much. And that's going to help you further along your life than you would otherwise. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video. I tried to talk about everything related to environments and opportunities in life. I feel like I covered it pretty well, and I hope you got some value out of this video, and if there's a will, there's a way. See you in the next video, and peace.